Hey, Mayor, we are streaming live on YouTube.
Thank you, Elvia.
Hey, Mayor, whenever you're ready.
All right, my clock says we got a minute. All right. Welcome to our November 10th, 2020 City Council Successor Agency and Housing Authority regular meeting. I'll now call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. For the audience tonight, I'm the mayor and serve as presiding officer for tonight's meeting. Tonight's public meeting will be conducted utilizing Zoom video communications. This allows the city to conduct essential business and comply with Public Health Administration recommendations to protect the public and city employees practicing social distancing and limiting exposure by not allowing in-person public meetings. To ensure that the public will be able to participate in our meeting, public comment can be submitted as live comments during Zoom meetings via email at publiccomment@cityofglendora.org. Brief lineup for tonight, we have two special items, one public hearing, 3 items listed under consent, 2 unfinished business items, and 2 new business items. It's with great disappointment that I announce that our holiday stroll is canceled due to the Los Angeles County health guidelines. With that being said, the city is preparing a special virtual tree lighting event that will include the entire city council and a very, very special guest. So stay tuned to that one. Madam Deputy City Clerk, can you please perform the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I would like to conduct an oral roll call and request that each council member respond with present when their name is called. Councilmember Thompson.
Present.
Councilmember Friedendahl.
Present.
Councilmember Boyer.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis.
Present.
And Mayor Alawas.
Present.
And all are present, Mayor. Thank you.
Is Pastor Butler with us?
Yes, he is on the line.
Right. Pastor Butler, would you please lead us in our invocation?
Yes, please do. Let's pray. Lord, we are people who are needy. Lord, you know all of our needs are exposed before you. Lord, we need peace and reconciliation. We need to be able to fight this pandemic. Lord, we need relief from our disappointment and depression. And with all of that said, Lord, that's why we turn to you and why we also, Lord, are able to come together to be able to solve problems and work for the good of all. I'm grateful, Lord, for the city council, for the entire city complex, including employees and first responders and our police department and our fire, and asking, Lord, that you would bless all of them in their work. And asking, Lord, as well, that you would show us the way through to a better day. Lord, we're grateful for some good news about a vaccine that's heartening. Lord, we ask that you might heal woundedness that has come through to us by the election. We ask, Lord, that you would help us to be people who practice peace and work for harmony and comity and goodwill. And all of these things, Lord, we trust to you and endeavor to exercise. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Butler.
You're welcome.
Councilman Boyer, will you please lead us in the pledge?
Sure. If you could stand if you can and join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gary. This leads us to our special item number 1, the COVID-19 reopening of the economy. I'd like to invite our city manager, Mr. Adam Raymond, to give us an update.
Thank you for that, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. Next slide, please.
We've been doing these updates from early April. The most recent update is from October 28th. Largely, there is no major update, but we will discuss some key items moving forward. Next slide, please. So as everyone knows, the state has had a new blueprint for a safer economy, which is a color-coded metric-based reopening based on county key metrics such as infection rates over certain population areas, and then rates per 100,000 people of infection. Next slide, please. So the earliest in LA County, based on this 3-stage transition and 2 weeks of meeting its key criteria, the earliest we can get to yellow stage, which is the most liberal in terms of movement of people and gatherings and operations of the economy, is early 2021 at this point. And the last stage, it's important to note, is not a full return to normal until a vaccine and or other therapeutics are more prevalent. Next slide, please. So these were most recently approved. We have had some questions from the state. Again, I would add that these are state allowances that were allowed 2 weeks ago. You've probably seen a lot of news about the large theme parks, and counties with those large theme parks like Anaheim are pushing back on the state right now. Next slide, please. So we heard news this week of a vaccine and watched the stock market. The Dow almost hit almost 30,000. As we reported last week, California is one of 5 major jurisdictions that actually has a micro vaccine plan. The reason it's micro, it's a state, not the federal government. They've received $29 million in federal funding. The actual vaccine, when it is available, will actually be administered on a county-by-county basis. Next slide, please. So just a quick reminder of these are the key metrics as we look at reopening and COVID-19. As you will note, in LA County, we actually do meet some of the red and orange criteria. However, our overall infections of 100,000 still remain in the widespread or purple tier. Next slide, please. So here's a current updated information from LA County. It's important to note that new infections per 100,000, which is the adjusted figure of 7.6, is a slight improvement from last week. The reason why the 11.5 new COVID cases is adjusted downward is the number of tests that we do. The state has a calculation that determines what the true net impact is per 100,000 residents. The 3.8% positivity rate is good enough to qualify us for 2 tiers from now. And the health equity quartile is good enough to move us down 1. And again, that's ensuring that the 25% of our population that is most at risk has an infection rate within allowable standards. LA County has put a lot of resources and effort in trying to make sure underserved populations are tested and any outbreak areas are addressed quickly. We are amongst the best in Southern California counties in that area. Quick note on the slide, today the state has announced some increases in virus cases, and also announced some counties like Sacramento, San Diego, and Stanislaus moved from the red to the more restrictive purple tier. Additionally, Contra Costa, El Dorado, Placer, Santa Cruz moved backwards as well from orange to red. And Moto, Siskiyou, and Trinity have moved from yellow to orange. So we are seeing this gradual move back. Riverside County was 2 weeks ago that they moved back from red to purple. And again, as you've seen at the state level, the state announced that both hospitalizations and ICU cases were up 30%, but they still remain within acceptable levels with the overall health and availability of hospital beds. So I think that's important to note as well. Next slide, please. So no major direction from the county in terms of changes. They did announce that they will provide some Thanksgiving specific guidance next week that they ask you to follow. Next slide, please. But just as a reminder, the county has provided these guidelines for all holiday activities that they'd like you to stay within, which largely is no gatherings outside of your household and families larger than 2, and that's outdoors for 2 hours. So really emphasizing the drive-by events, ensuring that social distancing is in place. The County of Los Angeles has also pointed to increasing caseloads, hospitalizations, and ICU. And while the hospital, the actual number of beds we're still in an okay threshold, they are relating the increase in most recent cases to gatherings outside of the home. Next slide, please. We do get the question a lot. Just a quick reminder that the city of Glendora must follow the county of Los Angeles. The state sets the ceiling on allowances, the county sets the floor. The city could set a basement for more restrictive, but we have not done that to date. The city has tried and advocated for additional reopenings in a safe manner, looking out for businesses and individuals across the entire board that they try to open up to the extent possible in a safe fashion. Next slide, please. Just a quick reminder, City Hall is open and all other city facilities are as well. City Hall, police station, transportation, Tuesday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The library, we have a Bidwell form. The computer lab, it's open Tuesday, Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The plaza space on Wednesdays is set up for you to actually be able to browse and check out certain library books and themes. Pretty incredible to see people back out, socially distanced, of course, and safe infection protocols put into place out again in the plaza. And again, all staff available Monday through Friday, and even then outside of the normal work hours. Should you have any questions or concerns, we're available by email, telephone, phone call, video chat. I think I speak for a lot of us when we've never been on more meetings our entire life, now that we're available on Zoom, or pick your other video chat 24/7, 365. Next slide, please. Again, this is where you can find the most pertinent information as relates to COVID. We ask you to visit the city's website. You can look at our legislative advocacy efforts. You can find out operation of city facilities, hours, and numbers in which to reach staff. And next slide, please. With that, Mayor, we turn it back over to you for any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Adam. With that, that'll bring us off to the item number 2 and special items of proclamation recognizing November 23rd through 27th, 2020 as Finance Appreciation Week. Councilman Friedendahl will present, and I'd like to invite Accounting Supervisor Mrs. Gonzalez to accept the proclamation on behalf of the Finance Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to get through this as it's all numbers. Proclamation by the City of Glendora, State of California. Whereas the history of accounting is thousands of years old and can be traced to ancient civilizations and is closely related to developments in writing, counting, money, and early auditing systems by the ancient Egyptians and Babylonians. And whereas the fiscal success of any organization is largely dependent on the proficiency and high standards of ethical performance of its accounting division, and whereas the Administrative Services Finance Division encompasses many critical functions that include accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, and utility billing, and whereas the second week of September is National Payroll Week nationwide. The second and third weeks in October are designated as Accounts Payable and Accounts Receivable Recognition Weeks nationwide. And November 10th is designated as International Accounting Day to honor accounting professionals everywhere. And whereas the last week of November is declared Finance Appreciation Week in the city of Glendora, and gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the dedication of the Administrative Services Department, Finance Division, who have contributed their expertise toward the soundness of government operations. Now, therefore, we, the City Council of the City of Glendora, proclaim the last week of November 2020 as Finance Appreciation Week in the City of Glendora and extend our heartfelt appreciation to the members of the Finance Division for the continued commitment to public service. In witness whereof, I have unto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Glendora to be affixed this 10th day of November 2020. City of Glendora, Mayor Michael Alawas, Council members Davis, Boyer, Friedendahl, and Thompson. Congratulations, well deserved, and thank you for being our great servants.
Ms. Gonzalez, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm honored to be here tonight accepting this resolution on behalf of the Administrative Services Finance Division. 2020 has been a year none of us could have imagined, and through it all, the team has been able to perform our day-to-day business processes and transition smoothly through many changes with the support of council, city manager, and collaborating with numerous departments. I just like to say thank you once again for this recognition.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, David, for reading the proclamation. I appreciate that. And we have no student reports, but I know that Councilman Boyer has reached out to the schools to see if they would like to continue this process, but at this point, not yet. So that will take us off to public comment. I'll open up the public comment period, invite members of the public to address the City Council, announce that speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on both on and off agenda items. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you'd like to request to speak, select the raise hand icon in the Zoom before the close of the public comment period. You will then be called on when it's your turn up to speak. Do we have any public comments that have been received or any letters that need to be read into the record?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We did receive one public comment via the email prior to 4 o'clock that was indexed and made part of the record. We do have one person that has raised his hand that would like to participate in the public comment as well.
Go ahead, Joe. Mr. Cena.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much, Mayor Alois, City Council, and staff. My name is Joe Lucina. I'm President and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce. Besides all the advocacy and just helping our businesses get through all the difficulties going on, the Glendora Chamber of Commerce is excited to announce the kickoff of our Shop Local Holiday Contest. I really can't believe it's already that time. But this year it's going to be a little different than in years past. We're calling it this year the Shop Selfie Share Glendora this holiday season and win. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but it's pretty simple. All you have to do is while you're shopping locally here, take a selfie with your purchase or take a picture of the business, sign, the front door. Check into that business on Facebook or Instagram and use the hashtag ShopGlendora2020. And share it. That's it. We're not doing the receipt thing because we're not collecting things right now. But we just want to try to do a media blitz where there's just hundreds and thousands of pictures of our local businesses just flooding the social media sites to just help get that top of mind marketing to everybody who shops this great town. So full details can be found at shopglendora.org. Then in not so much fun news as with the stroll, the Glendora Christmas Parade Committee, along with input from city staff, county rules and all that, decided to cancel the live Christmas parade due to COVID-19 health concerns. As members of the Christmas Parade Committee, I think we're more passionate than anyone else about trying to move forward this parade this year. But however, with the height of COVID-19 health restrictions, just felt it was best to cancel it, but provide a virtual experience like everything else. The groups want to go to GlendoraChristmasParade.com. They can get more details on kind of the plans of that virtual event we're trying to put together. Finally, just a plug here. I know Athens Services is going to be talked about here later on tonight, but I just want to say that they are a great community partner to the chamber here personally, to the nonprofits and the business community, and I know they're always here to support us whenever that request comes. So. With that, I thank you for the opportunity. The Chamber is very proud to serve the Glendora community, and I hope you have a great rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. LB, do we have any other folks wishing to make a comment?
No other emails received through our email address and no other requests via the Zoom meeting.
Thank you. At that point, then I will close public comment period, and I'll invite the City Council to give any of their reports or statements. Mendel?
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and so good to be a part of the city. And I just want to echo what Joe said, that we really need to do everything that we can to not only eat here, but shop here, and make sure that those that are here to serve us are able to continue to do that. And so I just would encourage each one of us to do whatever we can to eat and shop here. The goal line is moving along well. Thank you for the patience that everybody gives us. They are continuing to work extremely hard. We anticipate being able to have an update from them this next month, and but everything is just going well. Personally, I just like to say just a huge thanks to each and every one of you, the city staff, police, fire. 16 days we will be able to gather with family, friends to just say thanks. And this has been a incredible year. As we all know, there's been a lot of hurt and pain and unsettledness. And I hope that on 26th that we can sit down and honor the love that we have for each other, the grace that each other has enabled us to live in, and we just appreciate that. And so I just want to extend my personal thanks to each and every one of you, the council, police, fire, and I trust that that day is a very special day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. David?
Echoing many of Mr. Thompson's comments, to please continue to shop and eat Glendora, and not necessarily that manner, and be thankful and respectful this season as we come up into the Thanksgiving holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Gary?
Well, I'll echo the comments made by my colleagues, but I wanted to remind everybody, tomorrow, we're getting into the holidays, but tomorrow we have Veterans Day. And so it's really important, especially with a lot of things going on in the world, that we remember those who give us the freedom to be able to have meetings like this and to disagree with each other sometimes. So unfortunately, because of COVID restrictions, a lot of typical Veterans Day events are not going to be taking place in person. And I don't mean to send anyone to a neighboring city, but the Rotary Club of Covina is hosting their annual Field of Valor that is down located on the corner of Grand and Puente Avenue. So tomorrow, if you have the opportunity, at least drive by to check out their display of flags. And if you have time, stop and walk through, because it's really a touching event to be able to walk through and you feel the history of this country as you're walking through a field of flags like that. So everybody enjoy if you have the day off tomorrow, and we're all really looking forward to the holidays coming up.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the subject of Veterans Day, I believe today is the 245th birthday of the United States Marine Corps. So shout out to all of the Marines. And also, I would like to give thanks tonight for the lives of 2 individuals, and ask that tonight we close our meeting in memory of Barbara Seidner. And if you would allow me to, I'd like to share a bit of information about her, and also about another individual who is near and dear to one of our fellow colleagues on the council. I would like to ask that we close in memory of Barbara Seidner, who died on Sunday, October 25th. Barbara was a longtime Glendora resident, but especially well known for starting the Village Kitchen Shop in 1983. Barbara, along with her mother Joyce, were the founders of the Village Kitchen Shop and offered great products in there in terms of high-end cookware, cooking classes, and it was a great place to go and learn about a lot of good food and recipes. And after nearly 25 years of running the kitchen shop, she went to work with the family, helping in property management business, ERS Partners. And she brought her trademark care and compassion to that as just as much as she did to the kitchen shop. She was known for her hospitality and sharing her amazing cooking skills and opening her home to others. But the best recipe that she shared was that of how she lived her life with kindness and compassion and generosity. She survived by her family and friends and all that she shared of herself with others. And also tonight, I know that I speak on behalf of the council and city staff when I say that we extend our heartfelt sympathy to Mendel and to Rihanna Thompson. Rihanna's father, Bill Tubbs, died recently. And Bill is well known for having worked at Monrovia PD for nearly 31 years, rising through the ranks to chief of police. He served distinctively as chief for more than a decade. He retired in 1989 and served briefly for California Attorney General John Vandekamp, and then as security director for Penske Motors. Bill leaves behind a legacy of faith, love, and service to not only the Monrovia community, but to the surrounding community. And I know that he also leaves behind the example that he gave to Rihanna and Mendel, Robert and Michelle, his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So we offer our heartfelt sympathy to Rihanna and Mendel and their extended family. And tonight we give thanks for the legacy of Barbara Seidner and Bill Tubbs.
Thank you, Karen. Would you, Mendel, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I just want to say thank you. Karen, you said it well. He was a great, great man, loved his work, but loved his Lord and his family most. So thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Thank you very much. I just wanted to remind everyone that our council meeting scheduled for November 24th is canceled due to Thanksgiving. And that's also, I'd like to remind everyone that with the report that our city manager gave about the COVID-19, bi-weekly we have an EOC meeting, emergency meeting, that we review everything on a regular basis. So the whole city staff is basically involved with this, plus outside staff, county health, fire, and our local hospitals, that we are in tune and in touch with this almost every minute of the day. I know that Adam goes on a regular basis every day, gives us an update with the ever-changing county health rules. But we do have an established emergency meeting that is done. We used to be once a week, and then we pushed off to every 2 weeks because the changes were becoming less and less. But rest assured that the city, through Adam's leadership, is doing a great job of reviewing this and keeping us all up to date. So with that, it brings us to the reordering. Does anyone wish to reorder the agenda?
No.
No.
All right, thank you for that. This brings us to item number 4, a public hearing. Public hearing to consider a second substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan. I'd like to invite Housing and Economic Development Manager, Valerie Vasquez, to present the staff report. Valerie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. So as mentioned, this is the public hearing for a second substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant. We'll be asking to amend the 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan. Next slide, please. So just a quick recap. Under the CARES Act in response to COVID-19, allocation was made to the CDBG grant in order to prevent, prepare, and respond to COVID-19. In round 1, the city was allocated $179,204. Round 2 was intended for cities with a large homeless population. City was not eligible, so we didn't receive anything. But round 3 in September, the city was made aware of another allocation of $266,983 for a total amount of $446,187 in CDBG coronavirus funds. Next slide, please. So this is the second substantial amendment. The first amendment is where we included the round 1 funding, and we allocated that to the business recovery program. That was done in the 2019-20 CDBG annual action plan, because at that time, that was the active plan that we were operating under. So tonight we will be amending again the 19-20 annual action plan, although we are beyond that time period. HUD wants us to keep these CDBG CV funds in the same action plan. So we will be adding the additional round 2 funds as well as modifying the activity. Next slide, please. So in this table, you'll see the first round is included here. We initially had included $143,364 to business assistance. We'll talk about that a little bit, but as we know, we've had difficulty with that. So the recommendation for this third round and the second amendment would be to reduce that amount to $44,862. And then we will be asking to allocate $312,088 to an emergency rental assistance. 20% of the grant can be used for administration, so those amounts will be proportionally adjusted. So the business administration would be $8,972, and we have up to $80,265 for the emergency rental assistance administration, for the combined total of the $446,187. Next slide, please. So just a quick recap on the business recovery program. This was intended to assist Glendora businesses that had been negatively impacted by COVID-19. The program would grant up to $15,000. There would have to be a benefit to low to moderate income individuals. And the most difficulty that we've had was due to the requirement that they could not have received other assistance, such as the economic injury disaster loan or the PPP. So with this, we're asking to reduce it from $143,364 to the $44,862. One business has been funded, so that would leave the remainder of $30,000 to fund 2 additional businesses. And again, this is something that we've done in partnership with the Chamber. So thank you to Joe for helping with that, and we'll continue to try and get 2 other businesses approved for this. Next slide, please. So the emergency rental assistance, this will be something offered to households, renters that have been negatively impacted by COVID. It will provide assistance with monthly rent up to $1,000 per month for up to 6 months for a combined total of $6,000. They must be negatively impacted by COVID-19. They must rent in the city of Glendora, and they must meet income limitations. That is based on household size, all the adults and children, and then the combined incomes for any adults over 18. So I put here on the side a little table just to show you what that looks like. So a family or a household of 4, the income limit would have to be at $90,100 or below, and you can see the different levels for the different household size. This will be limited on the amount of funding that we have, and it will be on a first come, first approved basis. And we'll get into what that means in a couple slides. Next slide, please. So the program marketing on this, we will go ahead and upon council approval, we will go ahead and issue a press release. We'll get it on social media and our website. We'll go ahead and share the information with the different apartment complexes in the city, the different mobile home parks, share it with the community service groups, as well as our faith communities, and also with the Board of Realtors as well. In order to operate the program, we've gone ahead and I've asked IT, and they've prepared a friendly web address. So it'll be www.cityofglendora.org/ERA for emergency rental assistance. On that page, any interested parties will be able to go and complete a survey. The survey will go ahead and give them questions to determine their eligibility. At the completion of the survey, if they're determined to be eligible, they'll be given access to an application. And in addition, for those that do not have access to the internet or a smartphone, or that just have questions, we will have a dedicated phone line. And that phone line will be able to distinguish, staff will be able to distinguish calls that are coming in for the program. And what will happen is if we see that we are getting inundated or there's a huge response, we have went ahead and partnered. Society of St. Vincent de Paul, who also has experience with their own rental assistance program, has graciously said they will help out with the program. So we'll be able to go ahead and transfer calls to them, and they'll be able to respond within a day or so and help us go ahead and facilitate and operate the program. Next slide, please. So as far as what we need for a full approval, we will need that application. We will need to show documentation on the loss of income due to COVID-19. We'll need tax returns, pay stubs to go ahead and document that they meet the low income status. We'll need a current lease agreement and also information from the property owner or management company, including a W-9, a signed participation agreement, and a statement of the current balance that is due. Next slide. So upon approval by City Council, staff will go ahead and is prepared to roll out this program. We will get the website operating this evening after approval. And with tomorrow being a holiday, we'll go ahead and start accepting applications on Thursday. We'll continue to market and accept applications on the business assistance program. And we will go ahead and forward the amendment to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. Next slide. So tonight, the recommendation is that the City Council go ahead and conduct the public hearing, accept evidence and testimony presented, close the hearing, and in the absence of evidence and testimony, approve the second substantial amendment to the 2019-2020 CDBG Annual Action Plan to amend the previous activity and add the additional funds, and to authorize the Administrative Services Director to make the necessary budget adjustments. And so I will add, this is a public hearing. We went ahead and noticed as required and in compliance with HUD, and we have received no comments. And with that, I'll return it to Council for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Valerie. Appreciate the nice report. At this point in time, I'm going to open up public comment period, inviting members of the public to address the City Council. Announce the speakers are limited to 3 minutes speaking on just this one item. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. If you'd like to request to speak, please select the raise hand icon in the Zoom before the close the public comment. You will then be called on when it's your turn to speak. Do we have any public comment cards, Madam Deputy City Clerk? You're muted.
Sorry, at this time we have received no request via the email inbox for public comment or through the Zoom meeting for public comment and testimony.
And is there anyone out there in cyberspace who wishes to comment on this item? Hearing none, I will close the public comment period, bring it back to Council. And Mendel, you're up. Any questions, or Valerie?
No, I don't. I just want to applaud the heroic and incredible work that she has done, her team has done, that Adam has done, and I probably am missing others that are on our city staff. But a couple months ago, when we encouraged our team to look at this, I know that there was like, what are these guys wanting us to do? And Valerie, you have landed the plane well. And I just am so proud of what our team has done. This could not have come at a better time. as the holidays come, winter comes, and all of the chaos that we've experienced for this past year. I just want to say thank you, and thank you for being open to doing this, looking at options, knocking on doors, turning over every possible stone, and making this just occur. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of folks that will need this, and I'm so proud that we've been able to do this. Thankful that HUD has worked with us on this. And Joe, I want to say a continued thank you to you for the hard work that you have done and that you continue to do, that will enable some businesses to possibly get grants that will enable them to continue to thrive. But no, I've asked a lot of questions. I'm satisfied with what has been done, and I strongly support this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Gary?
Valerie, I do have one question. The unfortunate thing is people are struggling right now, and there are people that are probably on the verge of, being evicted or having an issue. If somebody comes in and has all of the documentation that is available, and I strongly want to encourage people to know that the information that's being requested, you should be able to get together. I don't think it's overwhelming, but how long would it be between the time someone completed an application and they find out whether or not they're approved, and then from then until they actually receive a check or their landlord receives a check?
So as far as getting everything approved, we put in the guidelines that we would make every effort to go ahead and get back with them within 10 days. And from there, we would need to go ahead and set them up with finance to get the check issued. So having everything means that we also have the landlord agreement signed and the W-9 is received. So I will have to work with finance to see how long we can get that check cut to them. We'll have to get the PO opened and get that. I'm assuming I don't want to misspeak. We'll have to talk with finance, but we should be able to get something out. I would say 4 to 6 weeks, maybe.
And Gary, if there's an issue at hand and we come up, and we'll do whatever it takes to try to expedite in any way we can.
My next question was going to be, is there an ability that we would have to be able to communicate with a landlord to let them know where we're at in the process in order to keep things from moving forward?
Absolutely. So when they go ahead, when we get the intake form from an applicant, we see that they're going to qualify, we will reach out to the landlord or property manager just to make sure we encourage them to get that participation agreement into us as soon as possible. And I'll work with finance and find out exactly how long we think we can get that check out to them so that we give them an update on what that timeline will be, so they're more willing to work and ease up on their tenants.
And then will these checks be cut to the tenant, or will they be cut directly to the landlords?
Directly to the landlord. So the agreement will actually be between the city and the landlord.
Perfect. And I just want to ditto the comments that Mendel made. You guys did a great job pulling this together, and my hope is that there's nobody in town that needs this help, but the reality is we know there's a lot of people that needs it. And if you are listening to this and you know of anybody, please pass the information on, because locally we have the ability to do some, but not as much as is needed right now. So thank you again.
Thank you, Gary. David?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Valerie and team, for a tremendous job, as has been echoed already. But I just hope that all your work can pay off and that we are able to help people qualify to get this subsistence, because it's a daunting task. My head hurts after looking at all that documentation requirement. There's a lot there. I hope that our residents that need this help can in fact qualify and take advantage of all your hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Karen?
Thank you, Valerie, for all the behind the scenes work you've done to make this become a reality. And I would just like to make a public service announcement to the landlords and property managers out there that may be listening to this. If you have tenants who could benefit, that would be a great thing for you to let them know, because it would be a win-win. You would get the income and you would be helping them out. So hopefully we can get the message out to people that could benefit from it. And that would be a great effort on everybody's part. So thanks again, Valerie, to you and the rest of the staff that worked on this.
Thank you, Karen. Valerie, you know, we're all singing your praises. We're giving you all kinds of kudos because you definitely deserve it, but also to prep you for all the work that you're going to have ahead of you. We'll make sure we send over gallons of eggnog to help you through the process, okay?
No, thank you.
You don't like eggnog, huh?
No.
It is going to be a daunting task. I just know that coming through, and I hope that everyone who applies and gets it appreciates it. St. Vincent de Paul, are they on the meeting tonight at all?
I'm not sure. They said they were going to try and attend, but I don't have confirmation.
I don't see any of their names coming up, at least in what I see on the screen.
They're a great choice. I know they've been doing this for years on their own, and so they're hopefully should be a good partner for you. Not only doing this, they have their own food pantry as well. So I'm thankful that you reached out to them, because I know that they've been looking at things like this to try to help out their community. So thank you very much again for that. I really appreciate all your hard work that's to come, because it is more than what you've already done. I know that going into this, of all the hours it's going to take to process these and the number that you're going to have to process. So thank you very much. So any closing remarks from anyone? No? All right. Deputy City Clerk, can you read the motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, the recommended action is to approve the second substantial amendment to the 2019-2020 CDBG Annual Action Plan to amend previously declared CDBG CV activity and add additional funds and eligible activities pursuant to CDBG coronavirus funds for the purposes of coronavirus prevention, preparation, and response, and to authorize the Administrative Services Director to make the necessary budget adjustments to revenues and appropriations for the CARES Act and the amount of $446,187. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
I see a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Davis, a second from Councilmember Thompson. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedendahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
And Mayor Alawas?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Elvia. This brings us to our consent items 5 through 7. Does anyone wish to pull or comment on any of the items?
I'd like to make a motion to approve items 5 through 7.
Is there a second?
Second.
Deputy City Clerk, can you take a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. That is I'm sorry, I didn't call it. So the motion was from Mayor Pro Tem Davis and the second from
Mendel?
Councilmember Thompson. Thank you. Councilmember Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedendahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis?
Yes.
And Mayor Alawas?
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to unfinished business. Item number 8, approve amendment number 3 to the agreement for the contract services between City of Glendora and Archelian Enterprises, Inc. For the integrated waste management services, and provide update on the California state of recycling and Senate Bill 1383. I'll invite management analyst Andrea to present the staff report. Andrea?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Andrea Ampig, and I'm a management analyst at the Public Works Department, and I primarily handle the city's environmental services. I'll be presenting on Athens Services Amendment number 3, as well as the current state of recycling in California and the upcoming recycling law, Senate Bill 1383. Next slide. Okay, to summarize the amendment request from Athens Services, they are proposing to eliminate the $10.75 annual credit that is given to residents who pay the basic rate for single-family dwelling units beginning on January 1st, 2021. This credit was originally scheduled to be distributed through August 31st, 2024. This 1075 credit is given to residents in quarterly installments and is reflected on their quarterly invoice. They are also proposing to provide the city with 6 30-yard roll-off containers for homeless encampment cleanups every year until August 31st, 2024. The next few slides, I'll be going over some of the background of the state's recycling industry and how it relates to Athens' proposal to eliminate the credit. Next slide. So each year around,
There you go.
Like we have.
Sorry, apologies, technical difficulties. We just went black. I'm trying to,
It's up.
there we go.
No, we lost it.
Hold on one second.
Yeah, we just had an internet issue in City Hall for sure. Andrea, we are doing our best to make this as difficult for you as possible. So we will.
It's going great.
Let's see. So this one went dark. It's not. I'm going to share my current screen and just close out of everything else. We're trying to get rebooted here. If you'll just hold on for 1 second. I'm so sorry.
Mayor, while we're waiting to get everything up and running, we'll just add that Athens will have people on the call this evening to be able to answer any questions that we have.
All right, thank you.
So, nothing. There's nothing. Start completely. It lost the signal. Okay. So I'm going to close out everything and just show this current one. See, there's no signal.
Okay.
Okay, so let's close out of this one.
Is it appropriate just to give a verbal report?
I think we'll be able to move it over.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to share in just 1 second.
You're good, Elvia.
Yeah.
Okay, is it showing?
It's
yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we could move to the next slide after this one. Awesome. Okay, so each year, around 1/3 of California's recyclables are exported to countries such as China, Korea, and Taiwan. However, on average, over 50% of our recyclables are exported specifically to China. Next slide. Okay. In 2017, China announced their national sword policy. This confirmed their intent to ban certain recyclables, including mixed plastic and paper, in the future due to highly contaminated loads and to shift focus to manage their domestic recycling programs. In 2018, the policy officially went into effect, and China imposed a very strict contamination limit of only 0.5% allowable contamination per load. In 2018, China also announced their intent to ban all recyclable material imports by 2020. Since 2018, many Southeast Asian countries created similar bans on recyclables and limited the amount of import licenses available to other countries. Next slide. So waste haulers in California now have to find new markets for their recyclables, and some recycling facilities are forced to stockpile their recyclables until they find a buyer. And in some cases, they have to landfill the excess recyclables due to health and fire code issues. So many California cities are faced with the rate increases for waste collection to counterbalance the cost of the declining recycling market. However, instead of a rate increase, Athens proposed to eliminate the $10.75 annual credit. Next slide, please. Okay. Per the request of Councilman Boyer before the meeting, we compiled a breakdown of the monthly single-family dwelling basic rates for the past 5 years. Per our contract, Athens is able to submit requests for rate adjustments for the upcoming fiscal year by March 1st of every year. Though the rate adjustments reflect changes in the consumer price index, landfill disposal fees, and various programs to comply with state laws. The rates shown in the dark blue boxes show the actual rate paid monthly by single-family dwelling residents and the percent increase from the year before. It's important to note that the factors shown in the light blue boxes reflect only the main components of annual increases. Other components, such as the city fee and weighted calculations, factor into the final rate. In 2016, Council approved an additional rate increase to compensate for the state minimum wage increase requirements and sick leave requirements, which is AB 10 and AB 304, and that started in 2017. And that was approved until this fiscal year, 2020. Additionally, the Organics Recycling Program, AB 1826, and the Enhanced Residential Green Waste Services, which complies with AB 1594, was implemented in 2018. And this was arranged to have 2 rate adjustments of 6.73% effective July 1st, 2018 and July 1st, 2019. And the rate shown for the 2021 box reflects the added cost of eliminating the 1025 credit. And we should also be anticipating future contract and rate changes with the implementation of Senate Bill 1383. Next slide. I think I could just talk about this one. The Senate Bill 1383 was signed into law in 2016 by Governor Brown. It establishes methane reduction targets in a statewide effort to reduce emissions of climate pollutants in various sectors of California's economy. And the main climate pollutant the law focuses on is methane, and methane emissions from the decomposition of organic waste in landfills are a significant source of greenhouse gases. So the goal is to keep the organic waste out of the landfill to reduce these emissions. Are you able to see the screen at all?
No.
Okay. I think I could just keep going.
Yes.
Organic waste accounts for a significant portion of California's overall waste stream, including food waste prevention, encouraging edible food rescue, and expanding the composting and anaerobic digestion of organic waste throughout the state will help reduce these methane emissions from organic waste disposed in California landfills. In addition, compost has numerous benefits, including improved soil health, and anaerobic digestion produces biogas that could be used to create electricity and renewable fuel. And food rescue also has the added benefit of assisting residents who are unable to secure adequate healthy food by diverting edible food to banks and pantries. So this figure shows just the amount of organic waste that is disposed of in landfills compared to the non-organic waste. Next slide, please. Okay. And California jurisdictions will be required to manage robust programs such as updating waste hauler contracts and procurement policies, and they will be required to execute an organic waste disposal ordinance and also manage an edible food recovery agreement. The city will be required to work closely with Los Angeles County, Athens Services, and food recovery organizations in order to successfully implement the program. And enforcement of these regulations begin on January 1st, 2022. Next slide. So this law affects multiple departments that will require coordination to implement the programs necessary to be compliant with Senate Bill 1383. For example, public works staff will be involved with the hauler agreements. Park staff will be involved with assessing the need for compost in parks and city landscapes. Finance and purchasing staff will be involved in updating procurement policies and purchasing recycled content products. And public transportation and fleet departments will be involved in procuring renewable gas for its city-owned vehicles. And recently, CalRecycle has distributed model ordinances, waste hauler contracts, and procurement policies to assist the cities in planning for these comprehensive programs. Again, the implementation date for SB 1383 is January 1st, 2022. And that concludes my presentation.
I think you need to move your arms, Andrea.
I know, the light turned off. There you go.
There you go. Very well done on your report, even with the technical issues.
Thank you.
Since this is widespread throughout the whole city, I'd like to invite one member from Athens to say a few words, please. Brian or Cliff? Gary?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. This is Gary Clifford, the Executive Vice President of Athens Services, along with Brian Joes, our Director. I just wanted to tell you staff did an incredible job of reporting this to you. Glendora is on the cutting edge of all these programs. You guys get some special attention. And I want you to know that of all the cities that we have, Glendora is one of the model cities when it comes to diversion, which means recycling, the food waste programs that are already in place. And we're in discussions with your staff and the city attorney about the transitions needed for Assembly Bill 1383. And you guys are in a good place because you've been very proactive and very innovative. I want you to know also that when you were speaking about methane gas, just so you know, the trucks that run in Glendora, instead of running on compressed natural gas, already run on renewed natural gas from methane from the landfills and from dairy farms. So you guys are already running on renewable natural gas in your trucks, which is something that Athens does. And I think that it's important to recognize that in many of our cities where we went through with rate increases, we're holding the Glendora gross rate the same and just eliminating the credit because the recycling market absolutely has fallen out of the bottom, and it's actually costing money for us to recycle. Yet where there's no market for mixed paper or for plastics from number 2 to number 5, your Athens Services crew has found beneficial reuse for those products to keep you on the cutting edge of diversion. It's just costing us a little more money. In closing, I would like you to say that during this COVID time, in addition, the waste at home has been about 30% heavier because everybody's home cleaning their garages and cleaning their house and putting everything out at the curb. In any other city that you have, they wouldn't even pick up the bulky pickups. Many of the national haulers have stopped doing that. If you live in a city that isn't an Athens city, you find that out, unfortunately. But Athens has continued to pick up all of the bulky items, the heavier waste, in addition to being cut back on the commercial side to the tune of about $1 million a month company-wide. So we're holding the line for Glendorans. We love our city of Glendora. We're hoping that the city council supports this so we can move forward. And again, I want to, my hats off to your staff that runs this program. They're excellent, and Glendora is a model city. So if you have any questions for Brian and I, we're here to answer them. Thank you very much, City Council and Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Gary. Bring us back to council. Mendel?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Gary, thank you for that update too. If Adam could, I'd like to start with him. And I know that the report says that instead of the credit, there's going to be some roll-offs. I believe the staff report said 6 given to us each and every year until August of 24. Adam, could you share with us the amount of takeaway that we have cleaned up for this year just alone, and the amount of roll-offs or the tonnage that is a part that Athens has really helped us with?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mendel, for the question. And I know Andrea is on the call as well, mentioned, and I see Chief Egan there as well. So one of the things we do with the roll-offs for homeless services is from time to time in the South Hills and other areas of town, as we've gone and done cleanups in those areas after offering services in those situations. We've had some pretty significant cleanups this year. It wasn't uncommon to have 15 tons at a time. Done multiple cleanups and approaching the 100-ton markage throughout this year. So Athens comes in with those roll-off bins and helps us provide those services. In this case, they're going to provide 6 of those 30-yard roll-off bins for free. And so it helps from the entire community who like to use our open spaces throughout the city as well, that benefit from that. So, and I would just also add that when the credit first came up, the councilman Athens approached us about a year ago, and as we went through the COVID pandemic, agreed to push off this conversation until 2021. So we're also appreciative of that as well.
Adam, thank you. And you know, none of us like to see a credit taken off of our bill, but I think that everybody needs to understand the picture of what Adam just said, and the really a partnership that, you know, Athens has helped us with to keep our South Hills clean, and that is a really important thing. And the ability that they've shown to respond quickly when that has just exploded. I also want to make a point that there are no less than 5 state mandates that have affected this. And a lot of times when a mandate is put forth, there's no funds to cover the cost of, you know, that, whether it's a city or, you know, something like, you know, what we're talking about here. A mandate is just that. You have to do it, and you have to find out a way to get it paid for. Well, when the state has put forth five of, you know, these, this has made it very, very hard. And Adam was right, and this is going to be my last point, that this has been talked about a year, and Athens has agreed to push it off, and we're thankful for that. And I support this, and I just appreciate the fact that Athens does things that other cities don't. Gary had just mentioned the fact that bulky things are still picked up. They sort all of the plastics and the cans and, you know, everything. We don't have to do that. And so they do a lot of different things. And I want everybody to understand that this is not just a credit that's going bye-bye, but there's stuff that is being filled in that the city and we all really do need. So I support this. The staff report has done an excellent job in making sure that that we understand this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandel. David?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrea, for a great report. And also to Athens for continuing to be a terrific partner for Glendora. As Mendel shared, they do a tremendous amount of work to help us comply with all those requirements for reducing trash and recycling and all those elements. So this is terrific. The fact that we are in fact getting a trade-off to deal with an unhappy project with the trash pickup in the South Hills. Someday we won't have an irresponsible element that keeps making a mess of our community. But the fact that Athens is partnering to help us mitigate that is tremendous. So I too support this and thank them for the continued partnership.
Thank you, David. Gary?
Yeah, I want to agree with the comments about Athens. They're a great partner for the city of Glendora. We appreciate what they do for the city and the help they've given us in dealing with a lot of issues. But I requested a breakdown of the increases over the last 5 years because the bottom line is our trash pickup costs have increased over 30% in the last 5 years. And the vast majority of those increases have to do with new legislation out of Sacramento that we're having to deal with. And when you stop and think about what we're talking about tonight with the inability to get rid of some of our recycled plastics, we are in essence on a lot of containers that we purchase at the stores, we pay a recycling fee for the container on top of what we pay for the product that's inside the container. And we put it in the trash, we sent it to Athens, and Athens is having to pay, and we pick up the cost eventually in our rates to separate this product. And so they separate it out for recycling. And then because they have no place to take it, they store it for a period of time, and we're paying to store it. And then when they realize there's nothing they can do with it, we're paying to have it hauled to the landfill. And so I just think it's really important to point out that, yes, we're eliminating a credit, so it's not actually a rate increase. But so many times these things that come before us, they're things that we really can't do anything about because of new legislation and new laws that just don't make any sense. And people need to understand that as we move forward. This happens a lot. And so I just thought it was important to be able to point that out, to basically let you know that we're paying for these plastics multiple times, and they're ending up right back in the landfills where they began. And I will share with you from someone that in a previous career was in the plastics business, this cycle has been going on for 40 years, and it needs to be addressed in Sacramento. But I will be supporting this. This is something that's absolutely necessary. It works out to less than $1 a month for our residents, the loss of this credit. But it's like everything else, all of these things end up costing money, and they're passed down to the residents of the state of California, and we end up picking up the costs. So that was my reason for asking for that information. I appreciate staff accumulating that for us, and I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say that Glendorans are very spoiled.
Yes.
Athens has spoiled us tremendously. And my daughter being one of those individuals that has grown up in Glendora and now lives in another city that is not serviced by Athens. And she had culture shock when she had to have 3 trash cans in the kitchen because everything has to be precisely separated. Otherwise you get fined. You're mandated to compost. So when we have Athens, who does so much for us on the other end, we have been spoiled for way too long. As other communities have had to respond to legislation, Athens for several years has been telling us the trend for the future and been adapting to it. So I appreciate that they have been looking for new ways to do this, to make it compatible and easy, both on their business end, but also for the ease of the resident. So I think that this is very fair, because we need to take our responsibility in trying to meet some of these mandates that have been passed down. So thank you for continuing to look to the future, and hopefully all of us can continue to do our part as all of these things go into effect.
Thank you, Karen. Again, I want to say my thanks to Andrea for doing a great job, even being in the dark at times and technical issues. and Gary Clifford for your report. I'd like to bring in Chief Matt Egan, because it was talked about the roll-offs that are given to the city and the cleanup that we use those roll-offs for. So Matt, do you want to pop in and talk to us about the support that you get from Athens?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And everyone in attendance tonight, thank you very much. I don't want to belabor the point, but I do want to speak to the cooperative nature that we do have with Athens. Andrea is an amazing individual on the city side. We on the police department side rely on her and her continued commitment to the relationship with Athens. In addition to, so what I want to speak to is obviously our cooperative relationship. And you know, it's an amazing thing when we do a cleanup operation. When you measure the cleanup in metric tons, that's a monumental task. And each cleanup operation yields approximately 20 metric tons in a 2 or 3 day stint. And you stretch that out over the course of a 12-month period, every 3 months or 4 months doing a cleanup operation, and those numbers climb, just as Mr. Raymond indicated. Another service that wasn't noted today that Athens does offer to the city of Glendora that goes a little unnoticed until you really notice it is graffiti cleanup and graffiti removal. It's a valuable task. It's a valuable thing, and we applaud them. So, Mr. Gary Clifford, thank you again for your continued and renewed relationship with the city of Glendora. And again, our heartfelt thanks for the cleanup operations and you providing those roll-off containers to keep our community clean. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Adam, I have a question for you. Does this amendment in any way extend the contract time that we have?
No, it does not. It keeps the term of the contract the same.
Okay. Mr. Clifford, what in-house recycling capabilities does Athens currently have?
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I was muted by somebody else. It took me a minute to unmute myself.
No worries.
Athens currently has the nation's most innovative material recovery facility in Sun Valley. We're building another one in the city of Irwindale. And so we currently are able to find markets for things that most people can't recycle. We're different than every other company because we're a mixed waste processing plant versus just a clean recyclable. So we go through everything and recycle and pull out what we can. And when there isn't a market for mixed paper, we'll try to find different ways to use mixed paper. As a result, we have something called an organic screw press that actually takes wet paper trash loads and squeezes the water and the juice out of it, and an enzyme comes out that we use as a liquid. We take it to the LA County Sanitation District, and it breaks down their biosolids. So we're finding some innovative ways to do that. We have many, many different ways of working with plastics in cement kilns, burning that instead of coal. So, and then we also have some new technology that we're working on that we'll be talking with your staff soon. an additional use of mixed paper to bring a product here on the West Coast that we can actually export. So there's some exciting things going on, Mr. Mayor. And as we work over the next couple of years to 2022, we will start unveiling some of that to Glendora first.
And could you speak to the state of California? I believe they are not permitting recycling of cardboard. They don't want to authorize new facilities for that. Is that correct?
It is very, I would say, uber difficult to get any kind of a permit to open up a mixed waste or any kind of waste processing plant. It would be difficult to find a city that wants it in their plant, although there's many good incentives for that to do. So currently, we're one of the few companies that are in the process of building one, and I can't find another place in California to get one right now. So if that answers your question.
All right. Thank you, Gary. So with that, does anyone have any final comments on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Let me have the Deputy City Clerk read the motion, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, that is a motion to approve amendment number 3 to agreement for contract services between the City of Glendora and Arkelian Enterprises, Inc. for integrated waste management services. That was a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Davis. Is there a second?
I will second.
A second by Councilmember Friedendahl. I'll take a roll call vote. Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedendahl,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor Alawas.
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Elvia. This brings us to item number 9, Priority Landscaping Services Agreement, Amendment number 4. I'd like to invite Supervisor Raquel Falco to present the staff report. Raquel?
Good evening, Council. It's good to be here. I'd like to talk about Amendment number 4 to Landscape Service Agreement. Next slide, please. I will start out with some background to the existing landscape contract that we have with Priority Landscape Services. The first agreement, or the original agreement rather, was approved in June of 2018. And in that agreement, we signed was for most of the city, or all city medians, 7 parks, 3 facilities, and several public property sites for landscape maintenance. Amendment number 1 was approved shortly after, and that was after the ballot results were received, and it was to maintain the landscape assessment sites. Amendment number 2, as you'll see, it's a one-time for a holiday lights installation in the downtown area. And the most recent one was for amendment number 3 for Louis Pompey Memorial Sports Park. And that was approved a few months ago. And that was to provide landscape services to the entire park. Next slide, please. So amendment number 4 would basically expand the agreement to all remaining sites, all parks and facilities that city staff currently maintains. It will also increase the scope of services at existing sites, and the service level will go from basic turf and planter maintenance to a higher standard of care. And then we will also add 4 water reservoir sites to the existing landscape agreement. Next slide, please. In this map, you'll see these are all the sites under the Parks Division. So in green, we have 7 parks and 4 facilities. These are the sites that will now be added to the landscape agreement that are currently done by in-house staff. The orange sites are the existing park and facility sites that Priority maintains that will increase in level of service. And then the blue sites are the 4 water facility sites that will also be included. Next slide, please. So in all this, all the sites will be maintained per the parks maintenance standards. So the level of care for the turf and planter maintenance will increase. So that will include mowing, edging, fertilizing, the planter maintenance, basically the pruning, plant health care, mulching in all planter sites, tree care as it relates to raising the trees and tree wells. We've also got irrigation checks and repairs of all of the system, playground inspections and maintenance, tennis court blowing and pressure washing for specific sites. For example, at Finkbeiner, where we have shade structure, high usage areas. Next slide, please. So this change would allow city personnel to increase the frequency of inspections. This will also allow us to decrease the response times to requests that we receive via iWork or citizen request, as we know them. We will, so between myself, the park supervisor, and the lead worker, we will be able to oversee the quality control for the landscape contracts, but also for the janitorial and any other contract services that we receive for the city. And then finally, we will be able to develop technology for more efficient inspection and also be able to map all the assets within the parks and facilities. Next slide, please. So the fiscal impact for this this amendment will increase the contract by $310,000. This will come, so we do have sufficient funds under the general fund and also the water fund for this change. And this will require budget adjustments from the administrative services. We will require salary savings to be moved over to contract services. Next slide, please. Wow, that was really fast. Sorry, guys. So with this, we'd like to, City Council to approve amendment number 4 in the amount not to exceed $310,000, and ask that we authorize Administrative Services Director to make those budgetary adjustments and authorize the mayor to execute the contract agreement. And with that, I'll take some questions, please. Do you have any?
Thank you, Raquel, for your report. I'll bring it back to council. Mendel?
No, nothing. I think this is an excellent move. It's smart, and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. David?
Yeah, I just want to verify, and I'm sure it's the case, that we are not reducing staff or losing any employees out of this process, but the park staff can still find
I'll
work.
take that one, Councilmember. Yeah, so overall, there are no employees that are being terminated as a result of this process. City has vacancies in other areas of both streets and water, and where employees, you know, in working with our employee groups to ensure that employees have a greater career path and more opportunities moving forward. So that was part and parcel of this. So no employees are walking out the building as a result of this item.
Wonderful, thank you. No other questions.
Thank you, David. Gary?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
No questions.
Thank you, Karen. I just have a couple. What's the net financial effect for outsourcing this?
So Mayor, as we spoke about earlier in the week, the financial impact through this fiscal year, we're saying is a break even, as salary savings will cover the cost. And as we move forward with the next 2-year budget cycle, we'll continue to evaluate and look at those items, including additional savings for materials and other supplies that are not needed.
And this is in cooperation with our maintenance staff, moving this direction. Wonderful. Thank you. Any final comments?
No.
Deputy City Clerk?
Just a quick note, Mayor, if I can, and Raquel's on the phone, and I know there's a lot of work that went into the contract amendment and visiting lots of sites and coming up with the complete package, and we appreciate her efforts of those and her staff and Allison as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Raquel. And Deputy City Clerk, can you read the motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, the recommended action is to approve amendment number 4 with Priority Landscape Services, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $310,000 to authorize the Administrative Services Director to make the necessary budget adjustments to move budget from several line items to contract services, and to authorize the mayor to execute the contract amendment. Is there a motion?
So
Move.
I hear a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Davis, a second from Councilmember Friedendahl. I will take a roll call vote. Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedendahl,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor Alawas.
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Elvia. This brings us to new business. Item number 10, award a contract services agreement with Alta Planning and Design, Inc. for design services related to Glendora Village Parklet Program. I'd like to invite Transportation Manager Steve Mateer to present the report, and Management Analyst Vanessa.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Stephen Mateer. I am the Transportation Manager. The item before you is to create a Glendora Village Parklet Program and to allocate funding for design services related to the Parklet Program. Next slide, please. As an overview, parklets are extensions of the sidewalk that are on-street parking into other uses. They can be used for either public or private uses. It is also an opportunity for the community to partnership to create more livable and outdoor spaces. Next slide, please. The reason we're proposing this motion is that with COVID-19, there are there's limits to indoor seating ability at restaurants due to COVID restrictions, as well as the existing ad hoc parklets being very popular and successful in helping businesses remain open, as well as mentioned, stay open. And with the rainy season coming up, it appeared there might be a necessary need to have parklets that are more permanent, more durable, and are raised up off the street level to allow for water to pass underneath. I'd like to also point out the parklets align with our economic development goals. Our first last mile improvements, as you notice, we're installing a temporary bike lane. So this ties in with how we're going to make the Glendora Avenue more accessible and to pedestrians going forward, as well as supporting community vitality and well-being. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, there's two types of parklet spaces. There are public space, which is a first come, first serve, which is for private dining and table service. And then there's also private dining, as I mentioned, which allows for food and table service. Sorry, I'm having my little assistant here for a little bit. Next slide, please.
He's in training.
Yeah, he's gonna be the new manager for me. This is gonna give you some examples of parklets that are throughout Los Angeles. This is in Santa Monica. As you can see, this is kind of the design aesthetic we're looking for, which is uniform design, something that's very aesthetically pleasing and matches the character of the village. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is in West Hollywood. Again, as you can see, vibrant streetscapes, public art opportunities, more landscaping, really an opportunity to activate our street further. Next slide, please. And this is also in Los Angeles. This is what their design parklet or design guidelines look like, where they have renderings and kind of easy to, quick build options for restaurants or other storefronts. Next slide, please. In terms of outreach regarding this program, we surveyed the 10 restaurants which currently use the parklet spaces. All agreed the parklets were helpful in keeping the doors open. Almost all agreed to provide some type of financial contribution in addition to what they've already contributed. And there was widespread support for permanent parklets. We also presented to the Business Improvement District Board of Directors last week on the 5th. And we outlined the potential parklet program as well as the type of parklets, and they passed a motion supporting the creation of a parklet program for the village. Next slide, please. So in terms of the parklet program itself, we've been looking to develop design standards, develop a financial arrangement for the installation and furnishing, and develop an application process which would cover encroachment permits, liability, and maintenance. And I'll take a note here. While we're focused on the village with this effort, that's not to exclude other areas of the city. We recognize that this is a limited indoor dining's area that is an issue that affects all parts of the city. So as part of that, we could be looking at how we can help other areas or other restaurants. Next slide, please. So in terms of next steps, tonight is to award a contract with Alta Planning and Design to initiate design services. We'll engage with the businesses regarding the program structure over the next coming weeks. And we'll also work with other areas of Glendora to identify how we can give assistance, either designing parklets in their parking lots, for example. After we've done with our design, we'll return to council for formal adoption of the program, as well as funding for the parklet program, for the actual installation of parklets themselves. Next slide, please. And so as I mentioned, these are the 4 action items tonight, which is to create the program, award the design contract, to create the budget allocation, and then to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. One note about the funding is this is part of our transportation special fund, Measure M, which is explicitly allows for the creation of parklets under its ordinance. And that concludes my report, and I can take any questions you have.
Thank you, Stephen, for their presentation and their multitasking. So with that, I'll bring it back to Council. Mendel?
Stephen, thank you. Thank you for securing this grant. That is really, really great. And this should be done when? First of the year? I mean, their plan and everything?
Yeah, I think if everything can go correctly, about 6 to 8 weeks is when I would anticipate us wrapping it up. A lot of it will just depend on, and if we run into any severe design issues, as well as, finalizing the agreements with the different, business owners.
Okay, and last thing is, I'm assuming that that what they would plan would pretty well fit with what the city would like and would think. I'm glad to hear the bid is on board. So I guess my hope is that once their plan comes back, this can be moved along quickly, correct?
That'd be my hope as well. Yes, that's
okay.
We'll aim to be. I mean, I'll say I probably burned some chits getting this through as quickly as we did. So we'll definitely be working as fast as we can.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen. Super job. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mendel. David?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. Great report. I would look for some inclusion in this when you set the contract, if you would consider recognizing that today's parklets are temporary and get by, and they've proven to be a great success. But I'm hoping that, as you say, curb level elevated platforms that are level so that servers cannot have to make up down steps on curbs and drainage works. And I'm also interested in, as you walk down the sidewalk at the end of the day, when the permanent project is in, that we do have a clear path down the sidewalk and we're not doing ducking and weaving and bobbing and turning on low bridges, because you have the same problem I do. You're kind of tall, so ducking under eye level umbrella points and things is a little concerning. So I look forward to a great permanent solution. I support this. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Gary?
Stephen, great report, and kudos for spearheading this project. This is something that we've been talking about for quite some time, and if there's a silver lining out with COVID, it sort of forced us to move forward with this, and so I'm glad to see it happening. But I do have a couple of questions. The first one being protection for people that are sitting in these areas from traffic. Is that something that we will be needing to deal with? Will there be a need for those barriers to be put up, or will there be adjustments to traffic patterns or something in the village?
No, yeah, that's a great question, Councilmember. So yes, the crash barriers will need to be added to the permanent parklets, including more visual reflective materials. I think you've seen some of them now on the trees that are there. And as you know, the bike lane that we're installing right now is temporary, and so once that's completed, we'll move some of those planters up to the village to help support this parklet effort. So yeah, the having crash resistant barriers, that'll be a big improvement with the more permanent parklet arrangement.
And then the next question that I have is, we're in a situation, we put parklets like this in front of restaurants to be used for outdoor dining. Is there consideration for any other needs of businesses? It's an absurd comment, but if a dress shop wanted to have a parklet in front of their store to display dresses or something, is there any consideration in the planning process for anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. The great thing about parklets is they're extremely flexible, and I know in other cities they've used them not just for dining. They can be for creating a new park space. And like you said, if a clothing store wanted to put garments out for sale, I think that's something we could absolutely look at doing, and making sure that that worked for them.
And then the last question is, if we create these parklets, we're calling them permanent parklets, and the building that's being used that they're located in front of gets a new tenant. Somebody moves out and a real estate office moves in that has no need for a parklet in front of it. Is there a process involved or a possibility of these being able to be moved or adjusted? Or is it something that once we put them in, they're going to be there forever?
I think that's something we can look at doing, is having like time increments for the agreement. So maybe last 3 years with an out clause that if the business moves or shutters for some reason, we can terminate that contract and move the asset to another area that's requesting it.
Okay, appreciate it. Last thing is, and I know the chamber will be involved in this conversation, but as you know, we have a number of events throughout the year in the village, and these parklets may enhance these events in certain situations. The one that I think of right off the top of my head is the flashback with the car show. It might be good to include the chamber and Kiwanis in taking a look at that, because it will change the look of the flashback and how that would be dealt with, and the number of cars that might be able to be on display and things like that. So not that I think that should affect any decision, but at least it'd be good to have input of those involved in the events down in the village. So, but with that, I am very, very supportive of this program and looking for it to be expanded outside of the village and other parts of the city as well. Thanks. Great job, Stephen.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
No, I think it's great. And as Gary mentioned, it caused us to do this a little quicker. So that is indeed one of the silver linings of experimenting with this during COVID. So thank you, Stephen, for your hard work, and looking forward to what all of these will look like in their permanent form.
Thank you, Karen. My list of questions that I have here, Stephen, is they're designed more for a look ahead while you're going through this process. And so the first one that I have, maybe either Adam or a city attorney could answer. Will these parklets trigger a possessory tax situation? Adam or Bill?
I think Bill's going to talk.
I think that is a possibility, but we would have to look into that. Never had to deal with the issue before.
Okay. Even though the owner provides insurance, supplies the insurance for the parklets, does the city have any extra exposure?
No, we'll deal with that problem through insurance and indemnity agreements.
Okay. And who determines the parklet size?
I think what we'll look at doing. Oh, sorry, Adam, did you have something? Okay. So part of that will be the curvature of the street. Something I learned is that parts of Glendora Avenue are actually higher than the curb in certain areas. When I had dinner the other night, we were out there and I was like, I'm actually kind of on an incline. Feels like I'm gonna. So, where feasible, we'll try to push it out into the parking spot as far as we can. Obviously, might be some issue there with ADA, the ramp angle. So we'll try to mitigate that as much as possible. The designer is aware of that issue with our parklets. So that'll be one factor. Other factor will be proximity to red curb and driveways. Usually you have parklets set back 50 feet from a driveway, for example. So we will work to preserve as much space as we can. And also some of their design guidelines we found is, they want 6 feet of separation between chairs as part of social distancing. So we'll do our best in the design envelope to ensure as much seating as possible.
And Mayor, just to expand just briefly, we've also talked about, obviously, the size of the storefronts in the village are as unique as they are old. And so all those things will be taken into consideration, as well as available parking.
Okay, so the next question is part and parcel to that is, have we had an idea of how many parklets we're going to authorize in a certain area?
We counted 7 existing right now, and they're all in various different sizes. So, for example, in front of Kara's, in front of Diplomat and Village Eatery, I believe that's quite a long one. So we'll be looking at how that fits in each restaurant's need.
Okay, so it's a as needed basis. Is this something that we're going to have a plan, a general plan amendment to, or to address this, or
So,
some sort
so
of building
Mayor,
plan?
if I can, and as Councilman Boyer indicated earlier, there is applicability here past just the use of restaurants. And I see that Jeff turned on his camera or moved his arm so the light went on in his office. And Jeff, maybe you can talk a little bit about what's authorized and sort of the current process for using right of way now in the village and sort of the expansion therein.
Sure. So, right now, whenever anything is happening in the public right of way, it's sort of outside the boundaries of your zoning regulations. So it's, you get into the area where really it's governed by the city through the Public Works Department through the issuance of something like an encroachment permit. So as Stephen is working and going through the process of, we've initially identified 7 locations, and we're, developing the finer details as to how big and where they will be. Ultimately, the city mechanism, if that's what you're getting at, what is our authority to, what type of permit is this? It would be an encroachment permit issued by the city to allow this on a temporary basis within the public right of way. So it's not something that requires any changes to our zoning regulations.
Because I know at the marketplace we only allowed so many drive-throughs restaurants, and then we had to make a change to that. I don't know if this would fall into anything of that nature.
No, and again, I think that's where you distinguish between things that occur in the public right of way, a public street, and things that occur on private property. The drive-throughs in the marketplace are all fixed on property that is held by privately, fee interest held by a private property owner. And so that's where you get into zoning regulations, which would regulate the use of privately held land. Whereas this is where we're talking about putting dining areas on what is publicly held land that's just held for common use by anyone. It's not really owned by anybody.
Okay, last question I have is triggered by Stephen, a comment you made in reference to a comment that Gary made. Who will pay for the build out of the parklet, and who would own that parklet?
So I think the structure one option we're looking at is the city would finance the base of the parklet, so the base plus any railing. Beyond that would be up to the business owner to furnish. So, decoration, seating, coverings, all those kind of things. So
the city would then own that parklet?
That's correct. Yeah, and that would be governed by an agreement covering insurance, maintenance, those type of things.
Yeah, and again, I would add, as stated in the fiscal impact section, all that will be considered over the next 6 to 8 weeks as we continue with the program and understand available funding sources and so on and so forth.
So there's going to be some sort of a user agreement to use that parklet.
Yes, sir.
Which will probably initiate a possessory user tax at that point. Then I would imagine. Could be. Anyway, that's my questions for now. Anyone have any last questions?
Just one thing I thought of when you were saying that, if we were to implement any public art element, like was illustrated in some of the examples, would that come up in that agreement between the restaurant and the city, or we just make it a blanket decision, or how would that play out?
That's a great question. I think in terms of public art, we could probably work that out as a case-by-case basis with the business owner at the front of that to determine how that would work. That's a great question. And so that's something we'll add to the list of.
So in related to that, there are 2 issues. Is it public art, or is it art in public places? Privately owned art in a public place.
And a great reason why, if this contract is approved tonight, we'll go through that process and develop those rules in conjunction with all the parties listed.
Ooh, nice closing.
In that case, I make a motion to approve.
Michael, if I could make one more comment.
Yes, sir.
You know, we give staff and everybody a lot of kudos on these projects, but I got to tell you, hats off to our city manager on this particular project, well, on a lot of projects, but there was a time that something like what happened to create this outdoor dining opportunity wouldn't have been considered in the city of Glendora. And when the idea was first discussed, the reaction and how quick you guys were able to turn this thing around and make the decisions. And actually, I know we had a lot of cities contacting you and saying, hey, what are you doing and how are you doing it? So just really appreciate taking the risk. It worked out for everybody. The restaurants appreciate it, the community appreciates it, and we appreciate it. But it really is, it's a time when government worked the way it was supposed to. And I just want to give credit where credit's due. Thanks, Adam.
So all this proves, Mayor, is that the city manager is spending way too much time in Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach.
It could be.
With that, Madam City Clerk, can you read us out, read the motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, at this time, the recommendation is to direct city staff to create the Glendora Village Parklet Program, to award a contract service agreement to Alta Planning and Design, Inc. for design services related to the Glendora Village Parklet Program for an amount not to exceed $52,757. Authorize Administrative Services Director to make the necessary budget adjustments to appropriate $52,757 from Fund 255, Measure M, Local Return, and to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I think I heard Councilmember Thompson as second. I'm going to take a roll call vote. Councilmember Thompson,
Yes.
Councilmember Friedendahl,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Davis,
Yes.
and Mayor Alwas.
Yes.
And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Elvia. This brings us to our last and final item number 11. So hopefully we can get through this fairly quickly. To discuss on the city's recognition program, including possible establishment of a Medal of Merit Mom Award or program requested by me and Councilmember David Friedendahl. This was placed on the strategic planning meeting that we had earlier in the year. And I'd like to invite our city manager, Adam Raymond, to present the staff report.
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, as you indicated, I'll do my best to get through this as quickly and thoroughly as possible. Next slide, please. As you let in, the city had a strategic planning session on July 30th, 2020. We talked about a lot of long-term range planning as it relates to COVID and the need to reassess and create work plans for staff. The adopted plan in October of 2020 included item 30 EMO, which is the Medal of Merit program investigation. And that action required staff to return by December 31st, 2020 for two areas. The first one was to report on current status of recognition programs. And the second was the consideration of the Medal of Merit program, which was to be worked on with both yourself and, as you indicated, Councilmember Friedendahl. Next slide, please. So I apologize if the writings here is small, but I will do my best to get through this as quickly as we can. Currently, the city has some recognition programs that are not without a formal policy. Others have administrative policies that have previously been adopted by council. Like many cities, the city has proclamations, one of which we heard tonight for Finance Appreciation Week. We give approximately 20 to 30 proclamations out a year. It recognizes the city council's endorsement of an event or circumstance, and again, no formal policy around this activity. Certificates of recognition are requested by council, are requested by various members of the community. They represent an official recognition or appreciation of a group or individuals. We looked at the last 2 years, we're averaging approximately 450 of these certificates a year, and there's no formal policy here either. We do have an Eagle Scout recognition, which looks a lot like the certificate of recognition With the inclusion of the watermark of the Boy Scout emblem, the city manager's office receives the requests, and no formal policy exists for this recognition. We have something that we refer to as the walnut plaque internally. This is the annual and sometimes every 2 years, depending on the tenure of the mayor. This recognizes the mayor's term of office, thanks them. Again, no formal policy here in the city manager's office through Sonia, who I tried to get to log on tonight, but she didn't want to spend too much of her evening explaining the past 10 plus years of all these awards.
Don't blame her.
Yeah, me either. The city tile plate, which we internally refer to as the hot plate, is awarded to the Citizen of the Year, employees who retire, and other special events or achievements. City staff and the chamber work together to ensure everyone is recognized appropriately. No formal policy exists here. The city has a mayor's tile. It's a 4x4-inch pewter plaque that each mayor designs to highlight the community areas of importance to themselves. We looked in the last 4 years. We've given between 40 and 75 tiles per year out. No formal policy exists here, and these are provided at the pleasure of the mayor. We have a street banner program, which is the promotion of community-wide interest. These take the place on Southern California Edison street poles, most notably Route 66, Grand Avenue, or some of the major corridors. This actually goes through the city manager's office for approval. Again, these are community-wide interest. And the rules on this are in Administrative Policy 1.34. Next slide, please. And if that wasn't enough, we have 3 more recognition policies in place. We do have a naming of city property and plaque. The highlights here are Administrative Policy 1.36. This is considered pursuant to the policy to be the highest form of thanks to a person or group of people in the city. There is a very detailed, specific process here. Notably, the city manager must approve the request. For example, if this is in honor of someone and that individual passes away, this honor cannot be considered for 1 year after their passing. There are boards and commission approvals that are needed, and ultimately the city council is responsible for bestowing this honor upon someone. Additionally, street naming is considered one of the higher forms of recognition pursuant to Administrative Policy 1.37. And it states that naming of streets should recognize a person, place, or event related to city and residents at that time. This is not considered an active program, while street naming does still occur. As the majority of the city is built out, this process is rarely used. Additionally, we have memorial trees that are placed in city parks and open spaces. The community services works with someone who would like to plant a tree in someone's honor. There is no memorial marker or plaque in the ground, but the group who requests a tree pays for it based on the city's tree price, and they do receive a 5x7 plaque that talks about the event and the location of the tree. And again, there's no formal policy that exists here. Next slide, please. The Medal program, the Medal of Merit Award is proposed to represent a significant recognition for the recipient, either a personal achievement or an appreciation, I apologize for the spelling error there, of dedicated service to the community. And who it would be awarded to tentatively would be sort of a supplemental that could go along with any of the existing awards that we just shared, allowing a greater range of ways for a recipient to display their achievements. To your right here, this was a mock-up of a medal. Mayor Alois was able to present this to us during the strategic planning session. This isn't necessarily what the final medal would look like. You have the city insignia there as represented on a ribbon. A final design, if approved, would be approved internally. Next slide, please. So possible options by the city council to consider. The recommendation by staff is broad, meant for wide-ranging consideration of the city council in any number of areas. The council may take any of the actions or several of them combined. The city may adopt the Medal of Merit program as just previously described and leave the discretion of the distribution to the mayor, city council, and/or city manager's office, one or more of those individual parties. The city council may adopt alternate guidelines that were presented this evening for the proposed Medal of Merit program. The City Council may take no action, meaning the previous programs will exist in place and no formal policies or procedures would be updated. Next slide, please. Or the City Council may choose to memorialize some existing programs, direct staff to come back with new rules surrounding the Medal of Merit program and or any other program. Examples of policy highlights could include who's eligible, what the criteria are based on, who's responsible for making and reviewing the award recommendations, and who's responsible for awarding each of the recognitions. Next slide, please. We used, in order to get an estimated cost of the Medal of Merit program, we worked with 3 of our existing vendors that produce various types of medals and or tiles, and people we've done business with before. Estimated one-time startup fee between $90 to $550 for a mold. Largely, this depends on the quality and the size of the medal. Estimated costs are between $4 and $11 per medal and ribbon, and again, that's depending on the size and the quality. Next slide, please. So for recommendation, as we indicated, that the City Council review and discuss the city's current recognition programs, proposed Medal of Merit award, and provide direction to City Council. And with that, Mayor, this is you and Councilmember Frittenall's item. We turn it over to you for discussion with your colleagues.
Great, thank you, Adam. Nice report, and it's a tough time to have this. I'm bumping up against 9 o'clock, and I'm going to start losing mental if I don't talk fast. The nexus for this Mom Award was from going to some of the ceremonies for the Eagle Court Honors, and going there and watching them, the Eagle recipients getting pinned with different pins that are out there for them, plus all the different plaques and recommendations and letters that were given. And when we were there, Gary was with me at one time. I said, you know, I have my city pin on my lapel. I took it off and I pinned one of the Eagle Scouts, and that was really a cool thing, and I think it was greatly appreciated by the Eagle Scout and the audience as well. And yes, we have you know, many ways of honoring folks, as you articulate. I'm glad we have this report at a minimum, because now it brings it forward to all the different options that we do have that I'm not sure all of us were really aware of. But being decorated by a medal, to those of us that have gotten decorated by a medal, it's quite a feeling, quite an honor to do so. It's incredible. You know, when you get a piece of paper for recognition, usually one of 2 things happens. It gets filed away into a drawer by your parents or by somebody else, and on those rare occasions, they get framed and hung on a wall. So that's and you're not going to be able to necessarily take a hot plate. You can post it on a wall or put the plaque on there, but you're not going to go carrying around a plaque when you get an award necessarily. You'll get it pinned and you'll walk around with it and feel pretty proud of it. You know, the importance of this recognition is also usually what happens with these awards is they're put into a shadow box or they're put into a safe. Those are the 2 areas that typically people use when they get some of these medals. And I know that in most cases, like with Eagle Scouts, I'm just picking on them because they, you know, it's near and dear to my heart, but this medal can go for anyone, Girl Scouts and other folks alike. They usually take these medals and they put them in a shadow box. And, you know, Glendora is a very unique city, unique place, unique community. And I want to do something unique to Glendora. So I'm hoping that the rest of my colleagues see this as well. I'm going to turn this over to Councilmember David Friedendahl for him to weigh in on this as well. David?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As you've recognized, Glendora has many amazing citizens, and they do tremendous things without heralded celebration oftentimes. And they often include youth. The youth are young folks that have worked for most of their lives to achieve a certain level of accomplishment. So it is a very personal achievement that oftentimes takes a village to help them get there. But those achievements often are in the academic field. We have several valedictorians at our high school graduations every year and salutatorians at our 3 high schools. This might be an opportunity to recognize them from the city for their tremendous and exceptional performance. As Michael suggested, the Girl Scout Gold Award, which is very rare, and it's a very difficult task to get for a young lady to get in the Girl Scout program. Having helped a couple of them work on their Gold Awards, I have a strong appreciation for the energy and the time they spend. And this is a nice way to give them one more thing to wear on their uniform in formal circumstances, but also notice that the city recognized them. The Eagle Scout, Boy Scout program, same thing. They can wear that proudly on their uniform to go with and supplement the Eagle Scout Award and know that the city of Glendora does recognize their special contribution. But I also think that we might have oftentimes adults that do things that are of tremendous service that just go unheralded for the extra work and the constant give to the city that they've done for many, many years. You know, we have great Citizen of the Year awards and all valid things, but this is something that, you know, could be a little special and a little different, not replacing any of those, but as a supplemental piece. My vision is that it does not have any strong criteria or requirements or mandates, but rather a prudent, hey, this person's award and achievement could be worthy of, and we might include this to them, not making it complicated. But I don't want it to be something that is given out like lollipops and easy peasy, everybody can get one, because then it means nothing. I think the Medal of Merit program is a strong voice that the city can have to recognize those folks that make a big difference for us. That'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, David. Well said. I'll bring it back to the rest of the council. Mendel?
Thank you. I would support bullet point 4 on staff report, page 4, except change the may to will. I personally, deep in my heart, feel like we have 10 pathways to honor folks, and I'm perfectly fine keeping with those 10. But if the spirit of our council wants to move in this way, I can only support it if there's some guidance. I can see a lot of issues if we are allowed on our own to just pass these things out. And in hearing what Adam said, I think that other awards that we currently give probably could stand to have a little bit of guidance given. I'm kind of amazed that some of these don't have guidance. Not that they haven't worked, but I think that in the environment that we're in, and probably moving further in, that I think that there needs to be some sort of guidance that for councils from this point on can operate in. So I hate to ask the staff to do any more because they're consumed with navigating the city in the current environment that we're in, which is crazy. But I do, or I would support if there was guidance that is outlined in bullet point 4, so that all of us could understand and recognize that this is certainly something that is special, and in order to get it, you have to qualify. And I do like the thought that David and Michael shared. I'm a strong fan of the Scouts and the students who achieve in a academic way, or in the arts, or in sports, or adults that have done things. So I can see that occurring. but I do think that we need to be aware of any legal things that are on the fringe that we may not know about. So I would certainly support if staff could take X amount of time and develop some guidance there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. Gary?
I'm sort of on the same page with Mendel. I think there needs to be some guidance, but I don't want to see anything get so tied up that we have someone that you don't check all the boxes, but we know there's, they're deserving of something. So I would like to see things, some guidance given on each and every one of these. I like the idea of having something physical to be able to hand out in certain situations. I just am not convinced on how to define those. A Medal of Merit to an Eagle Scout is would be very appreciated and well deserved, but where do we go from there? Does it go to students? Does it go to adults? I think there just needs to be a little bit more details spelled out on exactly what our plan would be to do with these. So that's where I am. I do like the idea. Just I'd love to hear some additional ideas on what we're going to do with them. And I like that the cost is not astronomical on these things. So that's a good thing to see. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Karen?
I appreciate the sentiment, but I think that what we have is sufficient. I hear what you're saying, that you've seen it at scouting events, but we don't need to be the scouts. We don't need to be like someone else that gives a medal, because I think what we currently do as the city is more than enough. And I think when residents look at the city, they don't look to us to be the people passing out medals. They look to other organizations to do that. And to Gary's point, that's why some of the practices and policies have been a little looser to allow council members flexibility, because sometimes there'll be a situation that you want to give recognition for or a certificate, but if it doesn't meet all the checks on there and all the boxes, so it's given the council a little flexibility. That doesn't mean to say that we couldn't, tighten things up a little bit or give some more examples, but I personally don't feel a need to create a whole nother category. When I think of the city of Glendora, I think of so many other things that I would like to see resources and staff time and effort go to meet the needs of citizens, and especially right now, the CDBG grants helping people with their rent. I see right up there, high on the list, giving a Medal of Merit. I don't see that scoring points as to what I want to see the city doing right now. So that's my thought.
Thank you, Karen. David, do you have any other remarks you'd like to add?
I do. I would certainly, if it gets to that point that we are able to proceed and research some more criteria upon direction of the staff of who that might be, I would certainly welcome the volunteer and help draw up some of those guidelines or clarify any considerations that help that process.
So it sounds like that we have, between Gary and Mendel, a little bit of consensus on item number 4. Would you, two of you, perhaps entertain that if we went with item number 4, that David and myself worked with staff to help tighten up the criteria for giving these out, and then also ask for your input on the remaining items that we do have? Mendel and Gary, would you want to see that language tightened up a little bit more and then brought back at another council meeting? Well, it's one of the recommendations.
Mayor, if I may, just to make sure staff is following along, Councilman Thompson, you referenced potential options that are in the report. Mayor Pro Tem Davis, I believe they're talking about the fourth main bullet point that has the 4 subsections. If we're following along at home, which is an option that council may provide additional direction to formalize some of the existing programs.
Correct.
Including if so desired, a proposed Medal of Merit program.
Yes, that's what I was saying, but I agree with Karen that the staff, I don't know that we have the bandwidth right now at the end of the year to lay a whole nother thing onto the staff. We're kicking off rental assistance. There's just a lot of stuff going on with parklets and all of that. And I think this is a good thing. I think that the timing is not the best. I wish that it was after the COVID crisis and life was a little bit more of a normal. So I'm not, personally excited about just pushing it through and getting it done. But if we're going to do it, and that's what I'm trying to say, that if we're going to do it, I'd certainly like guidance, because that's the only way that I would support it. I just don't think that we need to just have these medals and like David said, give them out like lollipops and not that the five of us would, but who knows who's going to be the next 5, and so that's why that I'm more comfortable taking it at a slower pace, getting some guidelines worked out, written out, not only for this, but Adam, you had mentioned that there were at least 2 or 3 other things that we've done that we have nothing written, which maybe is not a bad idea. It's worked, but I just want to make sure that we don't discriminate against, people. One guy gets this, one guy gets that. Well, why didn't I get this? Or, and having some written guidance is sometimes a preventative thing, so we don't get our selves in a bit of a mess. So that's what I am saying.
Mendel, I think that item number 4, the option number 4, does exactly what it is that you're asking for. It tightens up the eligibility criteria, responsibility, recognitions, and all that sort of stuff. It's a matter of the timing of how long it takes to get this done. I believe that Sonia would probably be the best person to work on this, since she has the tribal knowledge of who's gotten what when, and with the oversight of Adam, if that's okay with Adam, and have Dave and myself work on that and bring it back to council at a later date with tightened up criteria per this item number 4.
If I could,
yeah, that's what I could support if it's the will of the council to move ahead.
As we're working, if that is the direction we go, one item, Mayor, if I can get some clarity as we work with whatever subset of the council, which and staff is currently administrative policies, which require the approval or amendment thereof of city council to change, have naming of city property as the single highest honor bestowed on an individual, and streets, naming of streets is second. Both of those tend to be in perpetuity items, right? Forever. Street names rarely change, and city facilities last for a long time. Aside from that, there are specific honors and then certificates of recognition. We included in your packet this evening a sample policy from the city of San Ramon, for example, which talks about their proclamations and certificates. Are we talking here as we frame and help us provide guidance? Are as the criteria for this award, it sounds like several years of work. It sounds like a contribution either to the community over that time frame or individual. Are as we're aiming and working through the criteria, where does this rank?
In what regard?
Do you have some thoughts on that? I mean, I just to help staff kind of as we're putting this together.
It ranks well above, I think. Go ahead, David.
Well, I wanted to ask because I recognize that different departments offer things, and community services has 2 awards that they give out during the year on when they have appropriate nominations. Related, but maybe not a city award particularly. So I guess we need to look at who's the master of each of these things. And I know that the city manager's office has control and presentation or preparation of the resolutions and proclamations and certificates to point. So maybe we need to identify who's the keeper of these, or short of assigning Sonia the task, it's not a fair burden on her.
But Sonia would be the best person because she has the most knowledge.
She's got the historical factor of it, without a doubt.
So I think that this would, to your point, Adam, this would rise above just a certification or recognition, and somewhere along the lines of either above or below a proclamation, in my opinion.
Could I ask a question?
Certainly.
Our mayor's tile that we do every year, that is an item that's sort of left up to the discretion of the mayor as far as who they want to give those to and how many are going to be passed out. I don't know, Adam, do you know, do we have any guideline on that? Do we have a budget? Do we say we're going to spend this much money on mayor's tiles? Could next year's mayor order 600 of these?
All of these are great questions, and you'll notice that there are actually no guidelines. So in the previous years, one year it was 50, one year it was 40, one year it was 70, another year it was 75. Sometimes there's for example, when the Mocha anniversary was here, additional tiles were ordered, and other special events, sometimes that's the case. And so really, Sonia had at her fingertips 4 years worth of data for us to include this year. So they range between 40 and 75. 75 is the most outside of 1 year, which we ordered 100, and that was for the centennial. And we still actually have some of those tiles left over because it rained. But there is no, council member, there are no policies, although, as I'm sure those of you who are mayor will know, there are unwritten rules on who thinks they deserve one of those tiles. So I would classify that as maybe the most Glendora of the awards, where the mayor hands them out with a bunch of unwritten rules on a total to be determined based on a major event that happens that year.
Okay. I would like to throw an idea out there that maybe with the mayor's tile, we need to put a budget in place for the mayor's tile, whatever that is, $1,000, $3,000. I don't know how much that would need to be, with the caveat that you could spend it all on mayor's tiles, or you could include a certain number of, as long as we stay within that budget, medals of merit that could be passed out at the discretion of the mayor every year.
That's not a bad way to go.
Yeah, I just think that we have enough things already established without more shiznick to pass out. I just think that, at a time like this, to help residents and to help businesses, and to focus time and energy and money on that rather than making more stuff. But that's just my thought.
Well, I would agree with that, Karen. I just think that, you know, the bandwidth of staff, I mean, this sounds like a simple thing, but we've just spent, you know, 20 minutes raising a lot of excellent points. And you know, maybe we do what Gary said and have a more defined mayor's tile experience, or as Michael's done, he's got a and I don't know what you know call it, Michael, but a mini tile or a challenge coin or whatever it is. And you know, maybe that's what we do. I you know, and have budget guidance, and that's what you do, you know.
Well, we are 24 minutes into this. We could have always just said yes right at 9. We would have been done.
Well, but I think it's bigger than that.
But moving forward, I think a lot of the discussion and debate has circled around who gets what, when, and where, and that's a lot of the discussion that we've had so far. If I get this clear, and I think that Gary's point is just having an overall budget is a prudent one for the mayor's tile, and let the mayor give it out, and or tightening up this selection number 4 to figure it out going forward for all the awards. However, with that being said, I think it's worked so far all these years, and I wouldn't see that it not working moving forward for years to come. So if you wanted to make this as an overall budget, perhaps with the mayor's tile and moving forward, that'd be great. I mean, this is not something I really want to give up and just and acquiesce back. And this is something that can be done over time as far as getting back to the council, because again, Sonia's the one that's going to be able to talk most about this and find out who's best to do this. Because I even asked her a question, there's a wedding coming up, and do we have anything for weddings? And we don't. And so
we're not in the wedding business. We're in the
yeah, but why do we need a wedding certificate?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to point out is that she knows that we've not ever done anything for weddings in the past. And I'm just using that as an example. As is right now, we had
for that.
As an example, we just had a request come up for this resident that she's turned 100 years old, and we're going to get a certification recognition for, because it's a milestone. What I'm trying to point out is that Sonia is the keeper of what has been done, and she's stuck pretty close to that. So I think that if David and I were to work with her on this and bring it back to council with some criteria for giving these things out, I think that's possible without a problem. To Gary's point, if Gary wants to roll this up into, okay, you have a budget every year for the mayor's tile and include this into it, that's doable as well. Which direction you want to go. But I think at the bottom line is that it's either, you know, like I said, Gary says that we have an overall budget, do with it what you want, or define a plan. And those are the two, I see those are the two options that we're talking about here.
Well, when I hear that the mayor's tiles, you know, there is no guideline, and that we've ordered as many as 75 of those at one time. Those are relatively expensive tiles. And so I like the idea of creating some sort of a budget on that mayor's tile, and then allowing the discretion of the mayor every year to spend that entire budget on tiles, or set aside part of that budget for medals of merit, that we can have a uniform design on a medal of merit.
You want to make that a motion?
I don't think we're prepared to actually make that a motion. I think we'd have to see what that budget is for the mayor's tiles.
So do we want to give direction back to staff to come back with some budgetary numbers?
Yeah,
Yes,
I mean, I think
I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the lady that's 100, that she, deserves a hot plate. I mean, come on, that's
Is that only because you're getting close to that age? Is that it?
Well, that's very true.
Easy there.
So Adam, how much time would you want back sometime after the first of the year?
Yeah, I know the agenda on the 12th is getting pretty significantly full. If it's just a meeting, just an information item, be happy to provide that. January is an easy time frame, and if it's just a consent item for receipt of the budget, but this sounds like the budget is the first of a couple discussion points that were laid out this evening as articulated across the board. In consulting with Sonia, these are all the award programs. She's the one who provided us the numbers with the amount. Be happy to come back and provide a total budget we've spent and go back several years if you want on mayoral tiles, or it just could be on average. Don't necessarily want to be in the position of pointing out certain mayors that had more tiles than others and trying to, and try to handicap those by major events that happened. We can definitely provide some overall guidance there in terms of estimated cost per tile.
I think the 40 number is a good average. I think that's been more the norm.
Yeah, I'll own the 70 or 75, but there again, that's when I went to Mocha, and as all of you know, the culture there is to give gifts, and so I gave gifts to the higher level people, and then some of those people came here, but then other people came here, and I gave them that. So that was a very different year, and I would agree with Karen. 40 or 50 is kind of what I've always been hearing. So,
and I was actually thinking about our friends from Mocha when they come to visit or when we go there, and giving out a number of mayor's tiles is a little costly. And I think a Medal of Merit in a situation like that would be an ideal compromise. So I like the idea of having some sort of a budget on that mayor's tile thing, so that each year the mayor can make the decision if they want to include the Medal of Merit in as part of their program. I'd like to see that go forward.
So do we want to then, how do we want to do is give direction to staff to work on a budget for the mayor's tile?
I'd like to give direction to staff to come back to us with a recommendation on a budget for the mayor's tile. And then that budget could be used for the mayor's tile or a combination of mayor's tiles and medals of merit.
Okay.
A motion?
There's a startup cost to both, actually. For the mayor's tile, you have to pay for the artwork and things of that nature, and then you also have to pay for the molds for the Medal of Merit as well. Is that excluding it? Or is that including it?
It sounds like, Mayor, if I may, that the discussion would be a overview of the total cost of the mayoral tiles, things that go into it, and if the Medal of Merit contains the same design, I would recommend that council not include the one-time startup costs. If the Medal of Merit has different designs every time, it should probably be inclusive of the total budget.
No, one design.
One
standard. Okay.
So if I'm hearing this directly, to come back, talk about the budget as it relates to the mayor's tile, does that include some requirements over the Medal of Merit, or just a carte blanche at the discretion of the mayor at that time?
Gary?
I think it would be up to the mayor, and if any of the other council were interested in passing them out, all you need to do is ask the mayor for one.
Yeah, Michael and I will just try to come up with a little more refined criteria that might help save a few steps and to save some labor on your end.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of the policy on passing things out, has just come down to common sense of discerning if it's, the 100-year-old birthday or whatever it is, and if it makes sense, then you go with it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to make it so bulletproof, check the boxes and all these things.
Right.
That takes all the the fun out of it and the spontaneity,
Yes.
but
Common sense.
I'm just appreciative you guys picked an option that we didn't even contemplate was a possibility. So, there we go this evening. So time frame to come back for discussion. Mayor, you mentioned January.
Is your first meeting or second meeting in January okay?
Yep.
We'd be happy to handle that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we don't take any action on this item.
The direction
No,
you gave staff was to come back at a meeting in January with an overview of the budget of the mayoral tile and further discussion on Medal of Merit program.
Okay, so we're only providing direction at this point in time.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for that. That brings us now to our council and staff items. Mendel?
Well, I just want to say thank you once again for recognizing Bill Tubbs, and thank you. That meant a lot to us. And I know that Barbara and the passing that she had, recognizing her, meant a lot to the family that she had. And I do pray and hope that the 26th is a thankful day for all of us, and blessings can be felt from everyone to everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Mendel. David?
Yeah, thank you, staff, for all the great presentations and hard work to get us through this busy meeting, and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you, David. Gary?
Same comment. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Enjoy the time with your family and appreciate the fact that this year is coming to an end.
Amen.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
I hope that everyone will find many reasons to be thankful each day.
Thank you, Karen. Adam, do you have anything?
Just briefly, Stephen mentioned it, if you go out on Glendora Avenue, you'll see some changes along Glendora Avenue between Ada and Foothill. There'll be a protective bike lane that will be installed. We'll have a 4-month demonstration project. We'll see some enhanced crosswalk striping that you already see taking shape. A first real hand experience with some potential first mile, last mile activities. So we encourage people to come out and take a look at it. It should be done over the next couple of days. And we look forward to having another grant-funded economic development type of potential project where we get real life experience on if it works or not. So appreciate all the council's comments this evening. I know there was a variety of staff. Thank you to them for hanging through all of our technical difficulties. And we had our first kid sighting, which was awesome. So definitely, we got everything necessary this evening in 2020 Zoom meetings that all happened at once, and just appreciative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam. Bill, do you have anything to add?
I do not, except to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any comments from staff? No. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and stay healthy and safe. And remember to be kind to everyone around the dinner table and not get into any skirmishes. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting in memory of Barbara Snyder at 9:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone.